All right, the Nordco UG grinder operation and maintenance manual has Construction and care of the model UG Nordberg utility grinder. The model UG Nordberg utility grinder is a portable power plant designed to run either on land or rail. The very best grade of the flexible shafting used to transmit the power. Various accessories offer the use of the machine. Broad field of application reaches every rail grinding job in your territory. A belt drive with the power take off end of the engine crankshaft transmits the necessary power to the end of the piece assembly. The drive belts also under the constant tension during the operation may be slightly stretched slightly for the reason the bullet belt tension should be checked at once each of day during the first week of the operation and at least once each of the week thereafter. The belts are adjusting and shifting of the engine to adjust the belts, loosening the mounting bolts, turn the diagonally opposed to set screws in and or out until the correct adjustment is obtained and specified by the belt adjustment chart. Be careful to maintain the sheave alignment making the adjustment. Note, when the new belts are installed, they should be set into ice at the normal tension. After 48 hours, the operation belt should be set to between a normal 1.5 times normal tension. The tension normal 1.5 times the pounds of force, but be a belt deflection 1/8 of an inch is 1.5 times the normal 2.25 pounds of force, 1/8 of the belt deflection 2 times normal through 3 pounds of force of 1.8 deflection. Belt adjustment chart. The engine mounted with a full revolving turntable to allow the flexible shaft to work in the straight line, avoiding unnecessary kinks using the grinding either on the on-off the rail with revolving. The frame should be unlocked with the truck frame allowed with the turn in any direction when the wheels of the machine are much easier to handle than lock of the engine frame to the preventing of its turning. The handle is operating the lock immediately below the engine of the power takeoff side. When wheel grinder stabilizes the bar, locking the bolt pulled out of the all allow the stabilizer bar to be telescoped under the engine to reverse the procedure while using the grinder on the rail. Notice some of the special instruction flexible sham maintenance and lubrication. The flexible shaft is maintenance and lubrication instruction. In order to develop a great understanding of the flexible shaft operation, various use of the following general information has been provided. The standard core assembly 9606001 measures 114.375 or 1.14250 overall and 6.25 in the diameter. The key tagline fitting the sway it was swayed at each end of the score. The assembly is necessary to transverse the flexibility, torsional stiffness, and to ensure the satisfactory trouble-free service when operating the maximum loads within the grinder is recommended. The flexible core assembly is left in the hand operation should be operated only for the left-hand rotation. Visually assure that the proper core assembly is being used. The core winding must have the appearance of the right-hand screw thread. Left-hand rotation can be verified as straddling the flexible chart, viewing toward the grinding wheel of the shaft. The rotation of the core must be counterclockwise. The flexible shaft casting 906002 provides with a continuous grade flexible core and able to run true operate smoothly. Casting all prevents the core looping operating under the grinding load. The core properly assembled in the case with the will protected against the damage. External sources will remain properly lubricated. Overall length of the casing 9606002 measures 107.5 and 107.375 inches. The casing of the one end of the fitting is designed to allow the efficient adjustment in the case of the casing. The rest of the adjustment is provided with the 2 retaining rings of the casing and the assembly to the engine and the countershaft. The adjustment necessary to maintaining the correct operational length of the casing and the reference to the core length with the core casing and the assembled the countershaft with a hand piece that attends to the opposite end of the shaft. Specific dimension obtained. The dimension will provide between the shoulder of the core fitting and clearance of the core float with sufficient for the preventing of the binding of the core with the casing. Total end of the flexible core assembly countershaft assembly. Total end of the clearance may be divided between the countershaft assembly and the free piece end. Each time the core is removed from the casing with the cleaning and renewing, the lubrication check should be made with the casing length with the reference to the core length. It follows and insert the flexible shaft in the countershaft described above. Press the core all the way in the casing. Also, the drive key and the countershaft spindle contacts the end of the keyway and the core fitting with 1 inch for the amount of the tip of the exposed for the core fitting extends beyond the total the handpiece for the end of the casing of the new core for the casing. Both of the stop of the rings in place for the groove provided with the countershaft end of the casing, making the measurement and the core should extend beyond the casing approximately 3 to 3 1/8 of an inch. If less than the casing has been served at a distance measured for less than 1 3/4 inch, remove the first stop ring from the end of the casing. Insert the casing into the countershaft adapter until the second string stop ring is contacted. After the flexible shaft has been in service for some time following the first adjustment, the case may stretch to the point where the second adjustment is necessary, where the casing has been stretched so the core end is extended only 1 3/4 inch beyond the casing. It is necessary to remove both stop rings. Insert the casing and end all the way into the countershaft adapter. The 2 adjustment above the compensated 2 1/8 inch casing stretch is doubtful. In case will ever stretch but not beyond this amount. Properly adjusting the casing stretch is important. If it is not made, the core fittings will not have sufficient contact for damage that will result. It is also very important that the adjusting is not made too soon because they will make the casing too short with respect to the core length and will be obviously crimp the core with the cause damage to both ends of the casing. Flexible shaft used with the grinder has been selected to meet the exceeding requirements of both ends of the grinding operation. Care may be taken to select the spreading of both the grinding wheels engine of the best specific engineering information covering these operations. These speeds are recorded with a permanent plate and attached to the machine lubricate location visible to the operator and observer. Warning: do not exceed recommended speed. Exceeding the recommended speed can result in personal injury or property damage. The flexible shaft is designed to make with give the lasting performance with the proper care, being the following simple instructions. The utmost service will be attended. The flexible shaft assembly should always be operated as large a radius as possible. Operating over the shaft in an arc smaller than 10 inches of the radius with a shortened life of the core of the casing. Care must be taken to prevent dirt and moisture, abrasive dust, and other foreign substance with the contact of the core surface. When not using flexible shaft, it should be straight and should be stored straight and away from possible damage or contamination. It does not subject the shaft to unnecessary overloads and shock. This is liable to cause helixing of the core and resulting in shaft failure. When it is necessary to move the grinder, do not use the flexible shaft as the tow rope. Pulling will produce longitudinal strain and cause the stretching of the casing. Carry the flexible shaft whenever possible. Never force the fittings attachments on the shaft assembly, turning the fitting slowly until the key drops in the keyway. If this does not occur smoothly, readily disassemble and investigate. Care must be taken not to over-lubricate. Observe the lubrication instructions to ensure the proper operation along shaft life. Lubrication. The flexible shaft selected with the grinding requires only a minimum maintenance to be sure that the trouble-free operation. Following lubrication items should be understood and observed. The core assembly should be greased approximately every month when is only one guided with the grinder is being used at 8 to 10 hours per day on the continuous surface. The core should be inspected as regular weekly intervals. The shop aberrates the long period where the being and the consequently flex where the operation must be inspected. More often, never allow the core to become dry, or on the other hand, do not over lubricate. 2. Proper lubrication of the shaft assembly is essential for the maximum life of both the core and the casing. Recommended using the Houghton PA non-fluid oil, high quality grade, medium weight cup grease. Use the proper quality lubrication will only reduce the shaft life. Using poor quality lubrication will only reduce the shaft life. 2. Lubricate the core assembly. Remove the flexible shaft assembly from the counter shaft at the end of the engine. Withdraw the core from the handpiece for the end of the casing. Apply the grease on the holding it in the same hand and pulling the core through the grease while being fed back into the casing. The care must be taken to prevent dirt and abrasive material from contaminating the grease. Taking care not to apply excessive amount of lubrication to the core. As long as the core has a slight film with lubricating throughout its entire length, you will have a satisfactory frictionless operation. Excessive lubrication will cause the grease to churn, resulting in heating, and the heating will be detrimental to both the core and casing. The flexible shaft core should be removed from the casing after the 160 hours of surface cleaning old grease off the core with kerosene. Withdraw wire fitted with the selection of the relentless old cloth and clean old grease grease out of the casing. Allow the core to dry thoroughly before lubricating. Be careful not to dust, moisture, lint, and the abrasive material collected on the core. When replacing the core of the casing after each 160-hour cleaning operation, reverse the position of the core, at the end of which the formerly counter shaft of the power takeoff should be switched to the handpiece end of the casing. The cores are reversible. Both core fittings are identical. The procedure will assist in improving the life of the core, and since the handpiece end of the shaft is usually given the most severe service. The handpiece end of the connection of the casing is designed for a quick change. The handpiece with the right angle handpiece, the quick chain coupling also acts as the bearing ball bearing swivel. To uncouple either the piece of the casing, press the casing, release the lock sleeve away from the casing, permitting the steel barlings to drop in the groove machine on the inside of the sleeve. Withdraw the handpiece to release the casing, release the lock sleeve, which will be returned into its normal position due to the pressure of the tension spring. Reconnect the handpiece with the rest of the release lock sleeve forward. Insert the casing in the end that has a 5/16 of an inch wide machine groove approximately 5/8 of an inch from the end into the coupling. Release the sleeve, in which will return into the normal position. Alright, lubrication of the Nordberg 9606023 handpiece or 960060005 end piece assembly. Due to the type of the ball bearings used in the handpiece of the counter shaft, it is not necessary nor it's possible to relubricate these bearings. The two sealed bearings are used above the assembly with sufficient grease lubrication to last a lifetime of the bearings when operated with normal condition. These selected bearings are primarily employed to keep the dirt and amber grit of the bearings, also to serve the retaining the adequate supply of the lubrication. Sealed ball bearings in conjunction with the labyrinth seals exclude any of the possibility of dirt and amber grit with entering the bearing. The slants of the bearing seals are on both sides, should not be washed and cannot be relubricated, and no reason to disassemble these units until excessive end of the radial plate develops and bearings have to be replaced. Lubrication Nordberg 9606-0024 right angle handpiece. The bearings using the 9606-0024 right angle hand head are all the single seal type. The labor and the seals are incorporated with the main spindle to further eliminate dirt and amber grit from entering the gear housing the bearings. These bearings are furnished lubricated with the proper amount of grease for correct operation. Normal requires no further attention. It is advisable and necessary to interval 6 months to check the lubrication of the gear and the gear chamber. While it's almost impossible for the gear grease to work its way past the bearings and labyrinth seal to the main spindle, this grease can become contaminated with the grains of metal with the pulverized scale due to normal wear of the hardening spiral bevel gear. This also is a possibility with the grease lubricating becoming hardened carbonized due to the excessive heat resulting from overload. Therefore, it is desirable to inspect this gear with the gear grease at 6 month intervals. If the grease is badly discolored or hardened, the head should be disassembled. All the old grease carefully cleaned off with the gear, the bearing surface inside with the housing for the reassembling the right hand angle head to fill the gear chamber with the housing of 1/3 full with the high quality gear grease. A good way of determining whether or not there is sufficient good grease is in the gear chamber to remove the grease plug within the right angle of the casting and observe the movement of the grease when the head is in operation. If the notice of the quantity of the grease is sufficient to cover the gear mounted onto the main spindle, it will not be necessary to add more lubrication. Alright, accessory flexible shaft grinders. 9606-0007 couple wheel included the flange 3235 and 4776. 9606-0011 slotted guide assemblies. 9606-0014 couple wheel surface appliance including flange 3235, 6576 flange nut 5163 and 541 and wrench 878-07705. 9606 0022 freehanding surface grinder. 9606-0023 straight hand piece. 9606-0024 right angle hand piece include the adjustable span and wrench with the number 482. 9606-0033 guard for the 8-inch double couple wheel. 9606-0087 safeguard includes the two flanges of 3235 and 3201. Accessories to be used on the straight hand piece. 9606-0023 9606 9606-0007 cup wheel guard. 9606 sliding guide assembly. 9606-0033 guard with the 8-inch double cup wheel. 9606-0087 safety guard. Accessories to be used with the right angle hand piece of 9606-0024, 9606-0014 cup wheel surface appliance, 9606-0022 freehand surfacing guard. Notice when accessories are ordered in the time of the purchase of the grinder, the necessary flange nuts, special wrenches, etc. are furnished with no additional charge. However, the accessories are purchased separately. They will charge for these parts. And that concludes the grinding readings.